younger than me. I can call him that.
All right, we're now joined by Joey Logano, driver of the number 22 Autotrader.com Ford. Joey, as you return to your home track, I'm told you have an announcement for everyone out here.
Well, this is our one-year anniversary of the Joey Logano Foundation. It's been going well so far. Last year we've introduced it here at this racetrack. So to come back was been a heck of a year so far. Been able to do some really great things, but we got one of our first big events coming up here for the next New Hampshire race. It's going to be in Wallingford, Connecticut at On Track Karting. We're going to do a go-kart race, and that's where I'm from. So I've raced a lot there growing up at the indoor karting track there, and it's been a lot of fun. So we're going to do a little foundation event there. It's going to be called On Track with Joey Logano, driven by Autotrader.com. And so we're going to get all that going. It's the date. I have the date here. It is Thursday, September 18th. It's going to be 4 to 9 o'clock p.m. When we're up there. So it's if you guys are around, feel free to come by and go racing a little bit. We're selling teams of 4 for $2,000, and I'll be racing in all these races. There'll be a couple heat races and a feature by the time we're all said and done. So we'll have some fun and raise some money for a good cause.
And Joey, as we all know, this is considered your home track, and you scored your first Sprint Cup Series win here in 2009. How do you feel about this weekend?
I feel good about it. This track, I always say, is one of the tougher racetracks for me, and but it's always kind of a special racetrack for me, being I consider it my home track and not growing up too far from here, and watching my first Cup race here and winning my first Cup race here. It's always been special for me. But we had a good test at Milwaukee a couple weeks ago, getting prepared for this race, and I feel like we're ready to go. I think we learned a couple things there in Milwaukee, like I said, that a little bit different than what we've normally done. So we're going to kind of get out of the box a little bit, try a couple different things to try to wake up this Autotrader.com Ford Fusion.
All right, we'll open up for question. Raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start right here.
Pat DeCola, NASCAR.com. Joey, this weekend you have a chance to officially clinch a spot in the top 30, and with your multiple wins, it'll be like official that you're in the chase. Just talk about the relief.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so just talk about the relief that brings, given we have 7 races left after this weekend to get to the chase.
Yeah, we kind of figured we were in with the 2 wins anyways, but I guess officially, like you said, locking us in the top 30 there. So it doesn't really change much for us. We've been racing hard, racing for wins, and this 22 team's been fast at each and every racetrack we've been to so far. So it's hard not to have the confidence when we come into a racetrack that feeling that we can't win. I know we can at every one of them. So we just got to keep that momentum rolling, right? We got to keep those good finishes coming along and keep the momentum going. And keep our guys ready to go when it comes chase time, because that's when, that's the big times, right? That's when we got to go out there and win races and be there for Homestead.
Nate.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Joey, you and Brad have both talked about getting locked in early on the chase and what that means in terms of Penske getting to save its 4 tests, I would assume all for chase tracks. At this track, Hendrick is tested, Childress is tested, Waltrip, and Ganassi. When you look at that, does that... I don't know if you analyze it this way, but because I know this track's in the chase as well, but it would seem that those teams are sort of using their test to get into the chase, where you guys are kind of stockpiling them still. Can you kind of analyze that a little bit? Or?
Yeah, it makes sense for teams that don't have all their cars into the chase yet, because this is a racetrack that'll get you into the chase and a racetrack that's in the chase. So you kind of getting 2 birds at one stone on that one. So I understand why they did that. We're stockpiling them because we're both in, and we're going to go to the tracks that we feel like we need to test the most. We're still discussing that and scheduling them and what we need to do. And it's important for us to definitely think about that, and not just at the tracks that we need it the most, but the timing of it, and making sure that it's very hard for the teams to be prepared coming into a race after a test that week. You kind of get in your normal rhythm of what you do during the week before you get to the racetrack, and when you throw a 2-day test in there, it just really gets really strenuous on the guys, and being prepared as a driver and as a crew chief and as a team, how we get ready for it. And we did a few back-to-back tire tests a few weeks ago, and it was very tough to get back at the racetrack and feel prepared and feel like we're ready to go. And then we had a week of just having a normal week, and I felt like we were more prepared when we got to the racetrack. So we have to be very strategic on how we pick those those tracks and the timing of it and when we lead up into them. So we're kind of discussing all that right now.
Does that feel like it gives you a little bit of an edge on those teams that use the test here, though? That you can kind of plot ahead a little bit and know you can test closer to the chase races and kind of figure out like how it's not going to wear your team down and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it definitely gives us an edge. But not to be said that we haven't been testing at all this year. I feel like I've already tested more than I ever have, and we haven't used any of our team tests yet. So we've been working hard, and that's because of the rules change, right? That's because we have to figure it out, and the cars are evolving so much of the setup stuff, at least, and the way it, where we figure out things, and it's just a whole new book that we can kind of go through, and it wipes out a lot of your notes from last year. So you're just kind of starting from a new ball game there, and just trying to figure it out. And that's why we've been testing a lot, and that's why we're saving them to the end, because the cars are evolving so quickly that if you test now, it may not be relevant by the time the chase starts. That's how much we're changing.
Go to Jim.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer. You and Brad with Team Penske have been fairly consistent since the start of the season, but there's been a perception kind of in the first half of the year that the Fords were kind of struggling. But in the last 3 weeks, the three major Ford teams have all won races. You guys have won 3 in a row, and there's now four Ford drivers pretty much essentially qualified for the chase. So do you think kind of the perception was a little bit overblown? Is it more about individual team issues? And is there any reason why you think, from at least the 4 of you that you know now that have won races, one of you couldn't win the championship?
I do feel like one of us can win the championship. I feel like it's more individual team related than Ford in general. I feel like Team Penske, that's the only one I can speak for, right? So when I'm inside, I say we've been doing a good job. Are we where we want to be? No. We're never where we want to be. We always want to keep getting better. And we'll work with Ford on what we can work on with, and trying to make our cars better and all of Ford better. But I feel like Team Penske in general has done really well. I think it's look at our performance we had in Kentucky before Daytona was amazing. Really, I mean, if it wasn't for our engine issues in the 22, pretty much our cars led every single lap, and we were going to finish 1-2. So that's something to be very proud of. That's something to say, okay, the performance is still there. But each racetrack brings on new challenges, and the Ford motor sometimes is good at certain types of racetracks and not as good at other kinds of racetracks. So, and as far as our setups too at Team Penske, some Kentucky is kind of right in our wheelhouse, and we showed that. And then some other racetracks may not be there, and we have to keep working on it. And that's why we're saving our tests and saving what we need to do for when it comes to chase time to make sure our weak points are as strong as our good points.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Joey, looking ahead to Indianapolis, with this new package, the cars are planted a little bit lower on the ground. The logic is with a lower center of gravity, maybe on a flat track like that, you guys can do a little more than you have in the past, create some passing zones perhaps that you haven't had in the past. Do you see Indy being a little more competitive with this package?
I don't know if it really creates more passing zones, but it definitely changes their setups quite a bit, because your CG is a little bit lower as far as your springs, your bars, that stuff. You can do quite a bit different things than what you did before here to make it work, because your car doesn't roll as much anymore, right, because your CG is lower, so you can get away with some different springs that you couldn't do before. And obviously, we've been doing that all year.
Right.
But when you come to I feel like a flat racetrack, that difference between what we did last year and this year is greater. You look at Martinsville, you look at Sonoma, the things you do at those places were quite a bit different than what you've done in the past.
Do you anticipate the cars handling better at Indy now?
At Indy? Yeah. We did the tire test there, and yeah, you got more grip and you got more drag. So you're on the gas a lot more. And that's what we've been doing all year. I feel like the race itself will be quite a bit different, I think, because you have more drag down the straightaway, and those straightaways are so long that I think the momentum of the trailing car will change quite a bit. And to the end of the straightaway, it'll definitely be faster in the leading car. Whether that's enough to pull up to him and get underneath him by getting in the corner, I don't know until we get there. But definitely when two cars get side by side, that third car is going to get a huge run, and there'll be 3 wide and 4 wide racing on restarts. And we all know that's the easiest time to make passes or get past. And I think that race being one of the most, special races of the year that we go to, we're going to be racing really hard on restarts and kind of throwing a lot of caution to the wind because we're going to want to go out there and win that thing, and we know on the restarts is going to be the time to do it, and I think restarts are going to be nuts for that reason.
So you see a bigger slingshot effect?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. I think it'd be maybe be a little bit harder for the leader to take off and leave, which is a good thing for Indy and the races there before, so we'll have to wait and see. But it's kind of the direction I'm thinking it'll go.
Hey, Joey. Doug Rice, PRN. Joey, there's been a tremendous amount of conversation in the first half of the year about, okay, the new points deal has changed the way you approach racing, has changed the way on the track. Now that we're halfway through the season, have you seen concrete evidence that during the race, the way points are figured now in this new system, has it had an impact on the way you race and your fellow competitors?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's been multiple times that Todd and I be talking, and maybe it's before the race or during the race that we're talking about the pit call, and we'll say we're running sixth, and we'll take that chance because we can't win from that position. We'll say that like, hey, we can't win from here, so let's take that shot, and whether that's going to be the one or not, so chances are a lot of times making that gutsy call isn't the right call. But if it's a 20% shot at winning and you had 0% chance of winning where you were, you're going to take that chance and then try to make a lot of passes on restarts, and hopefully those tires are enough to make up for what you lost from making the pit stop or staying out or whatever that change is. So I think a lot of people are looking at it that way. And I think as the races kind of wind down into the chase, the guys that aren't in the chase are starting to, get into that panic mode that say, hey, we have to win. And they're going to start doing the same things that the guys that are in the chase that already have a couple wins, that are already taking those chances, will probably doing the same thing. So everyone's forced to, make those gutsy calls, whether that's on pit road or inside the race car. So I think it's good. I think it's exciting for the fans. I think inside the race cars, guys are driving really hard. People are racing really hard and taking more chances. I think that puts on a better show for the fans.
Rich. Joey, you've been kind of from the outside looking in on the chase. Now you're on the inside looking out. Does it change your focus or how you race?
It's nice knowing, really early in the season when we got that second win there in Richmond that we were locked in. That's a nice feeling. Last year, coming into this race, I think we were 10th in Daytona. We had a right front flat there, and then we came here at a left rear flat. We went all the way back to 16th, and we were like, uh-oh. We thought we were in decent shape of making the chase, and 2 races knocked us right out of it, and we fought all the way back into it. That's a challenging situation, and it's very stressful, and it's tough because you're using everything you got to get into it. And then when you get there, you're somewhat wore out. The whole team's shot. And, this time we're being in so early that we can, kind of make sure our guys are prepared for when it comes chase time, that we're not, running behind the 8 ball anymore. We're ahead of it, and we're ready to go.
Jason King, WMUR. Joey, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but can you talk a little more about the significance of New Hampshire or a track like New Hampshire in terms of, it's a track that can hurt drivers, but it can also get some drivers into the chase possibly?
Yeah, it's a tough track to pass at. So when we were talking about restarts here earlier, restarts here will be pretty hairy, and it's it's a lane and a half racetrack, so it's tight, and people shoot it down onto the apron and try to slide job each other, and feelings get hurt here. People get mad, but that happens. When the field's so close and it's, like I said, it's tough to pass out there. People will do what they have to do to try to make those passes, and they run into each other. And when you have these long, flat corners, your car is right on edge for such a long time, and you get someone up on your door, and your car gets loose, and slide up into them. And 90% of the time, it's not on purpose. I'd say a lot of times it's an accident for everybody, but it's a tricky track. It's hard to get your car to slow down, turn through a long flat corner, and then try to hook up 850 horsepower. That's a heck of a challenge to get that figured out, and then trying to do that around 43 other cars is it's very tough to do. So it's challenging for the crew chief and for the driver out there, but it's an important race. Like I said, it's for guys to get into the chase. And it's going to be a very important race to get figured out and make sure we learn from our mistakes we make this weekend for the chase when we come back to here.
Joey, Nicholas Tito with YankeeRacer.com. What does it say about this organization to have both cars performing as well as they have at the forefront this year, and anything that Team Penske has done different this year than last year to lead up to that?
Well, it says a lot. You know, really, I mean, we've came out of the gates this year with a lot of speed. And really, when you see a rule change come up like we've gotten this year, it presents a huge opportunity to take that and run with it. And that's what Team Penske did. We took it, we ran with it, we came out of the gates strong. We got both teams with 2 wins already. And really, that's one thing we were able to do, right? We were able to take advantage of that opportunity. I feel like we've been able to build on the relationships that we've had inside of Team Penske, whether that's myself and Brad working together for, you know, a year and a half now. That's a big deal. You know, the way we work together and make sure our cars are, you know, kind of going down the same direction that we both want it to, and we're kind of able to lead Team Penske the way we want it. And being able to work with some of the other management there, with Travis and Mike and Tim, and obviously myself working with Todd Gordon another year. All that stuff's just a bunch of good things. We've been able to build off of where we ended last year. And last year was a learning curve year, I feel like, for the 22 team at least, and trying to figure everybody out, and for Todd to figure out what I want in my race car and how I communicate to him, and each racetrack that was different. So we kind of had to learn each other a lot there. So we've been able to kind of build off of that, take advantage of the rules to make sure we're good coming out of the gates. And here we are. So we just got to keep doing what we've been doing and keep making sure we work hard and make sure we're ready for the chase.
All right, Joey, we appreciate the time, and good luck this weekend.
All right, great. Thank you, guys.
How are you able to beat on the bowling, Casey Kane? He was throwing himself to the wall.
I know, better team.
He was like, he was on the other side. He goes, we lost. Joey's team.